Do you think we have a few people that have opinions here? Holy cow, look at that list. Go ahead, John.
All right, let's go to Michael here. Michael's got a problem with you, Hacksaw. He says, there is no criminal investigation of Ohtani. You guys coaching it that way is offensive. It looks like you're just seeking clicks instead of giving honest news reporting. That's not the Lee Hacksaw Hamilton I remember from back in the day.
Oh, Michael, what are you barking about? I gave you all the details of what the 37-page indictment against Muzahara was. We're not creating information. That's the end result of the criminal investigation. Go look it up. 19,000 bets, 25 bets per day, $180 million in losses, the changing of all the account numbers so his advisors never got notification of the large transfers. Those are facts, pal. And by the way, after we gave you the facts, we are entitled to express our opinions. What's the beef, Michael? I don't understand it. Go ahead. John, intercede here.
Well, I don't know.
He's your friend. Fans Forum belongs to you.
Here. Yeah, exactly. So it's interesting, too, because so many of the people that are outspoken on this Ohtani case are convinced that he's in on it, that it's a conspiracy. And this is a guy here, Michael, who's kind of going the other way and defending Ohtani. It on the surface, it just looks strange, this whole thing. I mean, how could Ohtani, with all of this money, not know this is going on? I mean, even picking up vibes about it, because he's with Mizuhara, 24/7? It still strikes me as odd. But as far as you're concerned, you've always reported the facts. I'm probably the one that's bringing up the conspiracy theories.
Well, where did either of us say criminal investigation of Ohtani?
Well, no.
It's Mizuhara.
Exactly.
Michael, I'm sorry. You just got picked off first base. But hey, I hope you'll continue to watch us on our podcast. Next question.
Okay, let's go to Gary. He says, Ohtani knew. Big money has spoken. Darvish can strike him out.
Oh, my God.
See?
Conspiracy theory.
Yeah.
The great uneducated, unwashed.
Yes.
But thanks for following. FBI doesn't think he was involved. So now you're saying the FBI's in the conspiracy. Go ahead. Next question.
Okay, moving on. Let's go here to Schickster. It says, Blue Jays, Lee and John, how are the Blue Jays going to do this year?
They got a lot of bats. They just don't have enough arms. I read a note. Their top young pitcher about a year and a half ago was a kid by the name of Alek Manoah. Pitched really well. Had health issues, shoulder, I believe it was. Didn't pitch well, was up and down in the minor leagues. His name was being out there as being on the trade block. Nobody wanted to take a run at him just because there's questions about his health and his makeup. And they sent him to the minor leagues. And his first start in the minor leagues down in Class A. Do you know the distance, how far Dunedin, Florida, Class A is from Toronto Blue Jay baseball?
Yeah.
Rogers Place. I think it was 1 2/3 innings, 7 runs. And this is a guy that was projected to maybe be the next great pitcher in Blue Jay history. So I just don't think they have enough arms. I do love their lineup, from Guerrero to Bichette to Biggio to George Springer. I mean, they got bats in a lot of different places, but I just don't think they have enough pitching.
Yeah, I still think this team's going to be in the playoffs. Now, it's granted, it's a very competitive division with Baltimore and the Yankees, but I just want to make just sort of an off-the-wall comment about the Blue Jays. I love the font they use for the number on the back of their jersey.
It's very different.
With the 2 lines, and it's done very well. It's a great design, and they're not screwing around with it and monkeying around with it. It's been pretty much that way since the start.
Yeah. First game, I saw it on TV. First game they played at, I think it was the old CNE, Canadian National Exhibition Stadium, in a snowstorm.
Oh, my God.
The first Blue Jay game in April of whatever year it was, played in a snowstorm. And they were clearing off the field, and the pitchers and catchers are down by the bullpen throwing snowballs at each other. But the Blue Jays, that's been a really good franchise. Obviously, the Joe Carter-led Blue Jays were just absolutely phenomenal. Oh, Canada, thank you for joining us.
Okay, let's go here to Vin. He says, if the glove doesn't fit, you must have quit. Don't squeeze the juice.
Well, that was the phrase that Johnny Cochran and those guys used, but there's also part of the written description. OJ had a lot of medical issues at that point of his life post-NFL career. He was on a lot of different medications. And one of the theories from a doctor is that he stopped taking some medications and his joints swelled up. He did it intentionally. So his hand would be bigger and he couldn't get it into the glove.
No way.
Well, you're the biggest conspiracy freak I know. I'm just telling you what's been reported.
That's an interesting call.
Yeah, but at the end of the day, guilty as I viewed it. And the thing that really upsets me, and I didn't know this revelation till over the weekend when I went back and did checks, 63 police calls to the Brentwood and LA police about domestic violence in that house, him and Nicole. And he was still out running the streets because he was a football hero.
Yeah, that's a two-tier justice system, right? Which we talked about before. If there's been 62 cases, there should have been some charges along the way. I think that was in Brentwood, wasn't it?
Yes.
Just right outside of Beverly Hills. Wow, I mean, it seemed like a million years ago, that trial. Now it's all coming back to the surface.
Yeah, well, right now. So I apologize in advance if it offends you. He outran a lot of people in the NFL. He can't outrun the holy hell he's gone to now.
Okay, moving on. Let's go here to John. He says, OJ's dream team might have won the trial of the century, but he lost in the court of public opinion. His worst crime might have given us the Kardashians.
Yeah, the Kardashians and Al Cowens and the White Bronco. And I mean, I think back now, I watched that on TV when I was at 690. We stood in the newsroom, the whole damn staff watched there. And some people say, why is he driving on the freeway? Why don't they pull him off? If they pull him off, he'll kill himself. You know, there was a segment that thought that he was going to the cemetery. He's going to kill himself at the cemetery where Nicole was buried. Reality TV? No, that was reality life at that point. Could you imagine if that happened today? Social media being what social media is.
Oh my God. Yeah. Yeah. There'd probably be a TMZ van like following the cop cars on the freeway.
Shooting them going down the high speed lane. Next question.
Okay. Let's go here to David. He says, I didn't realize OJ only paid about $130,000 of the now owed $100 million owed to the Goldman family after the civil lawsuit.
Well, it was $33 million, I believe, was the original lawsuit, but there was interest that has piled on since the 1990s. Now there's a huge war with his estate because the Goldman family says they're going to go back in now because they will value whatever's left in his estate, and they want first claims on a chunk of that money rather than it go into what's left of his family, his grown kids, etc. Story is not over yet, but obviously he is over.
Makes you wonder what's left in the estate. Can't be much. Okay, let's keep on trucking down here. Let's go to Matt. And he says, junior hockey team USA captain and gold medal winner Rutger McGroarty returning to the University of Michigan for junior year. Thoughts?
He's one of the few. The outpouring of players jumping from college hockey, signing their first entry-level contracts is absolutely staggering. And the transfer portal is open, and there has been an enormous movement of players from Division I schools. Right after the Frozen Four ended, Denver University upset Boston College over the weekend to win the NCAA, they call Frozen Four championship. I bet, because I have access to that, I bet there have been 30 Division I transfers of players who've left places like Minnesota Duluth or left Hockey East schools and are just relocating, and NIL money is probably part of that equation. But you know, there are good hockey players, and there's a lot jumping into the portal now. There's a whole pile of kids who were drafted who are coming to the NHL on entry-level contracts this week. The Anaheim Ducks just signed the leading goal scorer in all of college hockey, Cutter Gauthier, who they got from the Philadelphia Flyers in midseason in a controversial trade for Jamie Drysdale. He is going to make his debut this week in the final game that the Ducks have on their schedule. Virtually every team in the league is signing all their draft picks out of college hockey. But then there'll be a whole pile of kids that get drafted out of high school that we dive it into college hockey at least for one season. The movement is just phenomenal. I think the Ducks have now signed 5 draft picks who had stayed in college hockey, took them all and signed them in the last 10 days to 2 weeks. It takes time to get them. Cutter Gauthier, 38 goals at Boston College, all-time leading scorer, the leading scorer college hockey this season.
Well, this is interesting how they draft a player, but then they still have the rights, but they go back to college.
Or they can go back to junior hockey.
Yeah. Okay, but wasn't the Larry Bird drafts kind of like that? Didn't they draft him like a year in advance?
Yes.
It was something weird like that.
But the rules are so different from one sport to another in terms of underclassmen. College, I think it's a crapshoot, but this whole thing wound up in the courts back in the 70s into the 80s. That's why there was the birth of the World Hockey Association to compete with the NHL, was that all these young players said, why should I have to stay in junior hockey when I am exceptional? Why can't I, as an 18-year-old, sign a professional contract and start my career? And they went to court, and the court ruled, NHL, you need to change your draft rules. The World Hockey Association came on board, and they signed all the underclassmen, all the 18 and 19-year-olds. And they wound up in the WHA, and the WHA rated the NHL for veteran goaltenders. We had two 18-year-old first-round draft picks from the NHL when I was in Cleveland as the voice of the Crusaders, who were big, young defensemen, and they played and they got better, and then they all wound up in the NHL when the two leagues merged with what was left in the WHA. But it's a crapshoot. I mean, you're drafting somebody with an idea outside of the top pick in the draft, top couple of picks in the draft. Those guys could be 3 years away. They could be in college hockey. They could go back to junior. If you're age eligible, you can play in the American hockey. It just takes time to develop. And to me, it's a crapshoot because you're signing all these guys and you don't quite know what you're going to get.
Well, take a look at like a player like McGroarty compared to, say, someone like Connor Bedard. I mean, they're both young, right?
Mm-hmm. No, Bedard was 18.
Okay.
Bedard was the exception to the rule. He was allowed to play junior hockey, I think at age 15 or 16. I mean, they have what they call it. It's like a elite status for a young player.
Mm-hmm.
And they're allowed to get drafted in the midget draft or the bantam draft in Canada and go play in the Ontario Hockey League or Quebec League or the Western Hockey League. And as a 16-year-old, if you're good enough, try to play and hold up and grow through the process. And Bedard, well, I think he might have been the first one of the elite status that was allowed 2 or 3 years ago to jump into junior hockey at age 16. I mean, you got 16-year-olds playing against an overage junior. It's 21. I mean, that's hard.
Yeah,
that's really hard. So NHL's tried to help the prospect player.
Okay, let's move on. Let's talk a little Chiefs football. Unreal. His career is screwed right now. Rice is done.
Rice is probably going to prison. Now that it's 8 felonies, everything changed. After they did the investigation, they went into the computers and they found out that he was doing 119 miles an hour. And he left the scene of an accident in which injuries occurred. That's a felony. So suddenly all 8 events became felonies. I mean, it's really a bad situation. And how stupid can you be? He was renting this Lamborghini SUV at what, $1,700 a day? The guy spent $10,000 and then wrecked it. How stupid is he? Maybe a great football player, past tense. He's going to get suspended by the league for sure, and it'll be interesting to see how much jail time he gets because I don't think you can plea bargain out of felonies.
Well, I mean, who rents a Lamborghini to drive the speed limit? That's why he rented it. Which, by the way, I'm surprised he was able to get away with it because if you're under 25, I don't think you can rent cars But yeah, what a disgrace. Bad choice. I mean, he's lucky no one was killed in this whole thing.
Exactly. We move on.
Okay, so let's go here to Matt. And he says, does Edmonton Sports Talk ever raid your show? Where's your Jets hoodie?
I've got a Jets hoodie. I have to go find it. It's in the closet. I've got I got a lot of stuff with NHL crests and logos on it. Yeah, you're correct. I will support my guys in Winnipeg because they're obviously supporting us. I even have, it was given to me as a gift, I have a New York Ranger jersey when Lady Liberty, the Statue of Liberty, was the logo.
Oh, nice.
It was one really special year. So you go find your California Golden Seals jersey. We'll do a hockey show.
Just as an aside, how did the New York Rangers get the Rangers, mascot? I mean, I get it for the Texas Rangers, but why New York?
That's a great question. You got a computer.
Yeah, I got to look it up.
Smart guy.
Okay.
I don't. The Rangers don't have a logo. They have a crest.
Mm-hmm.
Just says Rangers.
Right. Exactly.
They don't have a mascot.
Right.
It's just a different thing. That's a good question. The makeup of where that nickname came from.
Yeah, I'm always fascinated by nicknames, especially I like it when nicknames have a connection to the city.
Mm-hmm.
It makes it a lot better. So anyways, let's move on.
Yeah, Google guy. come up with an answer by next week.
I'll come up with an answer. Okay. Angel says, hey, one thing favored the Clips is that game 1 is at the Crypt. I see the Clippers take this series in 7.
I don't know. Dallas is playing unbelievable. The big guy has just, Luka Doncic just finished all-time, the leading scorer in the league, 33 points per game. Carew Williams, as weird as a person as he's been during his other stops in the NBA, when healthy, has played really, really well. They're collectively, that's a pretty dangerous offensive team. And if you got a Clipper team limping in here, I mean, the fact that Kawhi has not practiced and has missed 8 straight games leads me to believe that the issues with the knee inflammation in the knee that had 2 surgeries, that's pretty serious stuff. So how long can he hold up? That's going to be huge. I don't think either one of these teams is going to play defense. I think you're going to be looking at 130 to 126 games, which is cool. That I think it'll be a wild playoff series, but they're all on the clock, John. I mean, if they don't get to the Western Finals this year, and the Western Conference is a bitch, they don't get to Western Conference Finals with all these older players, some of whom could be free agents. They ever going to get there?
Yeah, well, I'm rooting for Steve Ballmer, man. Isn't he a great guy?
Oh, he really is.
He's a good owner. He's got all that energy, building the new arena. There's a lot of reasons to like the Clippers. And I mean, I just saw like on the internet, someone was doing a trivia thing, like name the NBA franchises that have never been to the NBA Finals. And every one of them was a relatively new team. And the Clippers, right?
And the Clippers.
So it's like the Grizzlies and the Hornets and then the Clippers. You're like, oh, this got to be
San Diego Clippers via the Buffalo Braves.
Buffalo Braves, yeah.
When they first came to San Diego. That was a pretty good basketball team.
That was.
And pretty bad owner.
Was that McAdoo? Was Bob McAdoo on that team?
Randy Smith was a great guard. World Be Free, Lloyd Free at that time was there. Then they became the San Diego Clippers. And just off the top of my head, Tommy Chambers, Michael Brooks, Bill Walton for 15 minutes before he broke down. They really had great looking uniforms. They had the flags as the logo on the side of the jerseys. They were really cool looking, but wasn't much of a team. And the badass owner, Donald Sterling.
Oh my God.
Okay, a couple more here before we go into social media.
Okay, let's go here to Sam Crow. He says, there's not enough TV money in Quebec, in my opinion.
It's a smaller market, I concur, but it would be a regional market. And you could charge pretty impressive ticket price numbers. And then you get into NHL revenue sharing because the TV contract is really different. And you got a big arena. I mean, if you're playing in a 17,000, 18,000 arena, which was different from the old Colisée where I broadcast from when I was in the WHA, which was, I think might have been 10,000. I'm just surprised that Quebec in hockey, Quebec City, and Montreal in baseball has not been given another chance. So Montreal does not have a new baseball stadium that have to go into Olympic Stadium. And there are a lot of people working behind the scenes that think that they could build a new stadium in Montreal if they got a commitment from baseball. But I think it's an injustice, Quebec City, because it's hockey. And that the Nordique were just a phenomenal franchise in WHA before the economics kind of changed and they had an old small arena.
Wow. So the Nordique, did they go bankrupt? Did they move?
They moved to Colorado. They became the Colorado Avalanche. Patrick Waugh and all those guys. And then Joe Sakic became general manager, and the rest is history, and the Stanley Cups have won. But that was the original Quebec Nordique franchise.
Well, it's interesting when you look at that corridor along the St. Lawrence River.
Sure.
I mean, Toronto is just an incredibly huge city. Montreal's decent size, but Quebec is still a lot smaller.
So is Ottawa, the Ottawa Senators.
Yeah,
and yet they've had some pretty good seasons, and they're very well supported, and they're building a new arena in Ottawa. It can be done, and it's their sport. That's why it's in Vancouver with maybe the best team in the West. That's why it's in Calgary. That's why Winnipeg, although they've had a franchise leave after the WHA NHL merger, they became the Coyotes. That's why Winnipeg got a franchise when Atlanta went belly up.
Mm-hmm.
And then you go east from Edmonton to Calgary to Winnipeg, and you go east and you got Maple Leafs, Canadiens. That's history. Original six. Ottawa, the expansion franchise, and obviously what they had with Quebec City.
Wow. A lot of history there. Let's keep moving. Let's go to Douglas. He says they have the America West Arena where the Suns play, plus the Gila River Arena where they used to play. That should be acceptable.
Well, you would think they renovated the Gila River one, but the problem was past ownership left a huge amount of debt. And the Gila River people threw them out of the arena. There's all these arenas down in downtown Phoenix, even the old Memorial Coliseum where the Suns originally played, but it's got to be with skyboxes. It's got to be up to date. They just haven't been able to get anything built. And I don't know if Alex Marullo, who seems to have the right intent, he's been given a 5-year window once they sell the Coyotes to go to Salt Lake City, whether or not he can get that thing built. Man, there's a lot of hockey fans joining
that's
us.
good. It's good to talk a little hockey, right?
Expand it. I know everything about everything. I'm sorry.
Yeah. I mean, we love the Padres too, but we don't talk about Padres 24/7. Hey, you want to go to social media?
Do it.
Let's take a look over here. Okay, let's take a peek and we'll go down the list. Hey, let's talk a little, this is a good one. Hacksaw, you are a legend. Miss your voice on the radio, but still enjoy this.
Well, this is cool. We've really established something neat here. You ought to see the metrics. John does all this research of how many people sample what we're doing. We're over 5,000 subscribers in 15 months here. That's pretty impressive.
Yeah, that's just YouTube.
That's just YouTube. Now, we do these things called One Man's Opinion that I do on the social media platforms, notably Instagram.
Mm-hmm.
He knows the specific numbers of a couple things that we've done that are just absolutely phenomenal. I'm trying to think. I did one on Stan Kroenke versus Gene Spanos, the Rams Chargers owners, had like 440,000 views.
Oh, it's more than that. It's over 500,000. There's a lot of those videos that you've done that have been just blown up, that have been hundreds and hundreds of thousands of videos. But when you look at what we're doing across all the social media platforms and the podcasting platforms, it's like we got Hacksaw everywhere in every nook and cranny, and it's just building and growing, and people are loving it.
He did the research. He put out a piece that listed each of the platforms we're on. We have been viewed by 1.8 million people. That's how many followers we have on all the different platforms.
Right.
It's absolutely stunning. So it's your fault. You've made us a success.
Okay, let's talk Angels baseball. And this is from Tom. And he says, hey, been an Angels season ticket holder for 25 years, dropped out of the 2023 season, won't buy back until Moreno is gone. He's a pathetic owner and bad for baseball at this point. He's turning into Donald Sterling.
That's not a bad call. And it's too bad because he was welcomed with open arms when he bought the thing from Disney. And then he signed all the free agents and they got dinged by some of the free agents, and then they were touched by the terrible tragedies, the DUI death of Nick Adenhart, who was an innocent victim when he got a T-bone by a drunk driver, then the drug-related death of Tyler Skaggs a couple of years ago, and the fact that he's made so many mistakes because he's such an impulsive owner. John, we talked maybe a year ago, after last baseball season, and we were talking about Marino. Is he going to sell it? Should he keep it? And I made the comment, if he wants to keep it, there are baseball executives out there that he should meet and brainstorm and take ideas from. And I mentioned two of them. One was the late Larry Lucchino, who just passed. The other was a state-of-the-art general manager who won all those World Series rings in Boston, Theo Epstein. He should have taken some advice, taken some notes, gotten some input, and brought it back. Orange County is a market unto itself. I think it's a great sports market. You know, they got this angst with LA, like the people down in San Diego have the angst with LA.
Yeah.
But it's a great individual market, and it's too bad. And he was so popular when he bought the franchise from Disney. Part of me feels really bad because I liked him, but part of me says, you got to do a better job, and you haven't done a better job. And I did a podcast for some people who cover the Angels up in Anaheim, and I said, make a contact with a longtime baseball executive, use them as a sounding board to take ideas, how to rearrange what you're doing, restructure. And I said Lucchino, and then I said Epstein, and that's just me talking. He never did it, and he's got this franchise now. It's in disarray. Well, the biggest thing about their home baseball games, the fans boo. They don't boo Mike Trout, but they boo a lot of other people.
You got to tell Artie Moreno, pick a topic, pick up a phone, to get him online. It's been a problem. I wouldn't say he's as bad as Donald Sterling. And that's a whole other level of problems.
Yes.
And the racism and all that crap. But, it's how do I say this? The Angels have the potential to be so good. I mean, they really do. And they just keep screwing themselves. Then I read in your best 15 this morning that he fired Rod Carew from the spring training practices. Did you see that?
Well, there's a big controversy last week, and it's been replaced by the Ohtani story. But there was a big issue. Rod Carew wants his name taken off the board. He's in their Hall of Fame. He wants his uniform taken down. Now, I got a gripe with Carew. Great baseball player, beloved, both Minnesota and Anaheim. But it's almost as if he's walking around saying, you owe me a job in my retirement. Well, nobody owes anybody a job once your career is over and you made a lot of money. If you don't have a lot of money, well, that's on you. I hate to criticize Carew, but this sounds awful whiny. And the fact that he wanted to be part of Mike Scioscia's coaching staff. Mike Scioscia said, no, I have a coaching staff. And he was doing some stuff for the Minnesota Twins, and he wanted to do stuff for the Angels. And Mike Scioscia said, no, you can't work for both ball clubs. It's kind of a conflict of interest.
Yeah.
And, now he's gotten all pissy. And I hate to see it because we all rooted for him when he had the heart transplant surgery.
Right.
And he's carried a grudge against Artie Moreno. But it's like he's acting like you owe me a job because I'm Rod Carew. I just don't think it is. I'd like to see him patch it up, but I don't think that's going to happen because he said a lot of rude things about him, and now he wants to go back and work for him in some form or fashion.
May just pile on Moreno kind of thing, where he's jumping in on it. Rod Carew, of course, one of the all-time greats. But you know what I always think about when I hear Rod Carew's name is the Hanukkah song by Adam Sandler.
Yeah.
Because he slips in Rod Carew in the lyrics, and it's terrific. But I remember just seeing pictures of Rod Carew and Tony Gwynn with all their silver slugger bats. Yeah. And that's just wonderful.
Yeah. If you just asked me off the top of my head, Lee, give me a couple names of the greatest hitters you've seen, modern day baseball.
Yeah.
I'd say Tony Gwynn. I'm biased, obviously, because of the person and the player. Rod Carew is right there. Tony Oliva and Wade Boggs. Those are just off the top of my head. I mean, we're talking about great stroke guys that always putting the ball in play, hitting the 350s. Just phenomenal. Hey, listen, we hope you have enjoyed our podcast, our Monday bonus podcast.